Now let's dig a little deeper in our understanding of operant conditioning by looking at the quadrants again. The 4 quadrants of operant conditioning represent 4 kinds of consequences that happen after the dog's behavior. The 4 consequences are divided into reinforcement and punishment categories, and understanding that helps training be more successful. You want to reinforce the behaviors you like from your dog and make the behaviors you don't like more scarce, and that's where punishment comes in. But you actually can modify behaviors by manipulating or arranging what happens before the behaviors, the antecedents, or through the consequences. That is, what happens to the dog after the behavior, right? The consequence happens to the dog after the behavior. Now let's look at the types of consequences, how they influence or affect behavior, and clarify what type of operation they represent. There are 2 reinforcement types of consequences. Both increase the frequency of a behavior. Let's consider the behavior of heeling. Heeling can be reinforced positively by paying the dog with a cookie, or negatively by removal of leash pressure. While both consequences are reinforcing the behavior, they are different types of operations. In one hand, you add stimulus, the cookie. In the other hand, you remove a stimulus, the leash pressure. So the positive and negative labels come from mathematics, from adding or removing a stimulus. They don't mean that something is good or bad. Punishment is a consequence intended to decrease the frequency of a behavior. It doesn't necessarily equal force. It's important to understand how training works, and also to acknowledge that punishment exists doesn't mean we don't strive to work into reinforcement-based training. Let's pick a behavior we usually aim to decrease. Let's say jumping on guests. It may be negatively punished by a timeout when you remove the dog's access to the person, to the guest, or positively punished by a leash pop, which is something I don't advise for. If you punish a dog while he is actively engaging with a person or another animal, he might actually associate that person equals I get punished, or another animal equals I get punished, and get even more aggressive at them, especially for fear-driven behaviors. And also some dogs might redirect aggression to the handler, which is also not good. This chart is meant to help you better understand training and how to work towards cultivating your dog's good behaviors. Finally, I'll briefly mention that extinction is also a consequence to a dog's behavior, and like punishment, decreases the frequency of that behavior. How we achieve it is by stopping reinforcing the behavior, which can itself punishing for a lot of dogs. Okay, so this is why it's something we don't usually go straight for in training. When we stop reinforcing the behavior, let's say begging for food, the dog learns that begging while you have dinner won't get them any scraps anymore. But keep in mind that there is something called the extinction burst, in which the behavior gets more intense before it disappears. And that can be exactly the time when some people will break and give the dog food, teaching them to be louder, because that's how they actually got rewarded.